The village of Aldermoor sat stoically against the encroaching mist, its thatched rooftops barely visible through the dense, swirling fog that choked the roads and wrapped itself around the quaint cottages. The sun, a ghostly orb, struggled to pierce the murk, casting fitful shadows that skittered across the ground like an omen. It had rained earlier in the week, and now the damp earth exhaled a damp breath of decay, filling the air with a fetid miasma that clung to the villagers' limbs and dulled their spirits. Something unnameable stirred in the thick air, an awareness that something had changed. The cattle refused to graze, the fields lie barren, and the familiar sound of laughter, once the light of a community now overshadowed, was eerily absent. Martin Felton, a local historian, had returned to this insular little place after years away in the city, hoping the solace of the countryside would calm his restless mind. Yet now, as he ambled down the cobblestone streets of Aldermoor, he couldn't shake the gnawing discomfort that coiled like smoke in his chest. Faces he once knew had grown gaunter, their eyes sunken, filled with a shadow of fear that danced just beneath the surface. When he spoke with the townsfolk, their responses were disconnected, as if they were adrift in a fog of their own, a fog they couldn't quite identify. "Have you seen the stars?" Mrs. Pritchard, the local baker, asked in a trembling voice, her hands stilling the dough before her. "The stars?" Martin echoed, wondering what she meant. "Yes, of course. They're beautiful tonight." Her cracked smile faltered. "Not the same. They twinkle differently, you see. It's as if they're communicating." Martin attempted to chuckle, to dismiss her thinly veiled woe as clever absurdity. Communicating? With whom? "Aldermoor has lived without fear for too long," she whispered, her lips barely moving. "There's a reckoning afoot." For days after, a sense of wrongness clung to him like the oppressive mist surrounding the village. The air itself seemed to pulse, swollen with palpable tension, as if the very world were waiting for a command to act. Hallucinatory visions twisted at the corners of his mind, whispers echoing just beyond his comprehension. Each night, he'd awaken drenched in sweat, as if remnants of another realm lingered in his dreams. A place twisted and contorted, bereft of familiar shapes and rendered in colors that belonged nowhere on earth. He spent hours poring over the archives of local lore lodged in the musty community center, searching for a trace of the anomaly gripping Aldermoor. Among faded photographs and yellowing brittle pages, he uncovered ancient diaries that spoke of a fissure in the sky, and how, on particular nights, the stars would align in an array that beckoned in a sinister silence. Accounts of livestock mutations and disappearances crept in, but as he read, the lines fuzzed, blurring the truth with obscurity. Laughter, once a human sound, echoed somewhere, beneath the fabric of sanity. The locals had begun to gather in the evenings, heads together, murmuring in desperate tones, glancing toward the horizon as though something there awaited. Martin joined them, needing answers, but the specter of dread wound tighter around him, squeezing the air from his lungs. Their faces, glazed with resignation, told stories that spilled into his consciousness like a slow-moving fog. Each gaze turned to the heavens. Each stillness spoke of an unspeakable truth, of encounters cloaked in myth and nightmares. It was on one such night, with the moon a glimmer of white above, that Martin found himself wandering into the vale. The night buzzed with unseen life, an electric hum thrumming beneath the skin, buzzing like 1,000 whispers just out of earshot. Shadows danced, seemingly alive, and as Martin traversed further into the ether of the mist, the trees twisted unnaturally, their barks gnarled and laced with a darkness that felt sentient. Suddenly, the air parted with a rush, and there it was, the sky, a surreal canopy of swirling colors, slashed by something that felt foreign, alien, a hue of darkness deeper than night, thrumming with a pulse that resonated within his very marrow. The stars blinked and shimmered, bending in alluring arcs, their vibrations weaving into an otherworldly cadence that tugged at his sanity. Time distorted. In that moment, he became acutely aware that he stood not on earth, but at the precipice of something far larger than himself, something insidious moving beyond the veil of his understanding. The ground beneath him quaked as the entities manifested, shifting between dimensions, their forms abstract and fluid, communicating in a language of shapes and vibrations that spoke the fear from his core. Martin turned, instinct forcing his legs to flee, but the ground coiled, shifting beneath him as he stumbled into the invitation of the unknown. He could hear the whispers now, tearing at the fabric of his sanity. Chants, incantations of ages lost, echoing memories of those who had come before him. And yet, it was not merely sound, but sensation, an immersion in raw emotion that transcended speech, gripping at the heart of what it meant to exist, to survive. He remembered Mrs. Pritchard's words. Aldermoor had lived too peacefully for too long. It would take more than whispers to reclaim the lost souls. He fell to his knees, succumbing to the darkness swirling around him, feeling it wrap around his very essence, threatening to devour him whole. The alien eyes, if they could be called that, studied him with an insatiable hunger, reflecting the dread that bloomed within him. They understood his fear. No, they fed on it. With one last rush of will, he cried out, as if his voice could claw back the horrors crouching at the edges of reality. He thought of the stars, their spinning forms promising illumination, yet mocking him with the relentless void beneath. As he shrieked, a burst of light engulfed him, despair crashing into bliss, an exchange of dark energy with the thrumming pulse of existence crashing around him. And in that melding of worlds, the lines of reason twisted, emotion roiling into an incomprehensible contemplation, scattering the last vestiges of his identity across the very cosmos. With a tumultuous finality, he surrendered to the void, the only truth in existence. Hours, days, weeks, perhaps even a lifetime passed in that space. The villagers, lost souls carrying their own burdens, gathered under the shivering stars, unaware that Martin had become intertwined with something unfathomable. The sky, a gaping maw, awaited its next offering. Aldermoor lay nestled against the mist once more, silent, with eyes turned ever so upward. In the heart of the village, whispers were becoming legends, and slowly, insidiously, they curated in the fabric of something larger. Cosmic dread seamlessly woven into the collective memories of Aldermoor. Would they hear him, feel his terror weave through the echelons of thought? In the silence, he remained, yet another lost echo in the pulsating harmony of incomprehensible stars.